Yo, what is good, YouTube? It's your dude Heat coming at you again with another mother freaking video. This time, really quick discussion video. I like to do one of these per week, and I love to hear what you guys have to say. So for this one, I want to ask you guys, how did you get started, and why did you get started as a sneaker collector? Why would you maybe even consider yourself a sneakerhead? What was, the defining moment? Maybe there was one moment in time of your life where you started deciding, man, I really love shoes, and I'm going to go ahead and start collecting. Maybe you're not a collector. Maybe you're just someone that just likes shoes, and maybe doesn't have a huge collection, but really loves looking at shoes. I would still consider someone like that a sneakerhead. Why do you like shoes? Why do you one day hope to build a collection? Maybe why do you one day hope to have, your grails or whatever? What is the reason behind that? For me, this is not an uncommon story, but me growing up, I didn't like our family. We weren't poor, but we definitely weren't, wealthy by any means. And growing up, my family, my parents, and whatever, and families in general will spend money on what they think is, the most important for the family, and that makes a lot of sense. So instead of buying, a shoe that maybe when I was a kid costs, $100, $120, $130, that's a lot of money. I would instead, get a shoe that's, a shoe that you find at a clearance sale, or a shoe that you find, maybe a no-name shoe, maybe a Walmart shoe, or a Payless shoe. That for me, that was where the priority was, I think, as a family, and I completely understand that. It's very expensive. These are very expensive things, and you need to prioritize your spending, especially when you're raising a family. It's incredibly important. So anyway, getting back on track. I was the dude that never really had, I never had Jordans till I was like, I think I was like 16 or 17 years old. Like I was pretty, like all throughout high school pretty much I never really had any of them. I think I had maybe like a couple beater like Team Jordans that like people gave me, but it was never really a thing, because I could never really get my hands on them, basically. And growing up, like, I'm flashing back to when I was younger, 13, 14, I was really into skateboarding, I was really into basketball, but I would wear, at the time, AND1s were crazy, and J's, of course, but AND1s were crazy, and I couldn't get those. There was this, I remember there's this imitation AND1, it was just called Air. It just said Air, and it was a wannabe, sort of Nike product. And it just said Air on the side. I remember that's what I wore, to basketball practice and to go to school and stuff. And it looked like I'm telling you, these looked identical. And you put them side by side, and one of them says Air on the tongue, and the other one says AND1 or whatever. And it even had the little dude and everything. So I rocked those, and I think they're from Payless. And I rocked like Payless shoes and all that. And I was getting clowned, like, no doubt. I was getting clowned in high school, on the ball team. Like, fortunately, I wasn't like a nerd, or like, kids are brutal. I wasn't like a nerd. I was like an athletic kid. I played on all sorts of sport teams. So I never really got clowned, but I knew kind of behind the scenes, like, at basketball practice, they'd be like, man, what are you wearing, bro? So, with all that, out of the way, when I got older, and I guess, at the tail end of high school and definitely going into university, I was able to start saving my money and buy a lot of things that I never had the opportunity to buy before, and one of those being shoes. And that's sort of how I got hooked. I always had a handful of shoes in high school, but they were never really things that I really wanted. It was just mainly like I wanted a nice rotation, but it was like Payless shoes and beat up like clearance, Nike Dunks and stuff like that. It wasn't anything super special. And now I can, I'm blessed to say that I'm able to have this little mini collection of shoes that I've sort of always wanted. So that's it. I'm going to stop talking, but I'd love to hear your comments down below. If you could go ahead and let me know, either on YouTube or send me an email. I'd love to hear it. And new video dropping tomorrow. Really appreciate you guys watching. It's your dude Heat. Peace.